Hello and welcome to our next lesson. For today's video, we will going to talk about the prototyping and its relevance in software application development. So to have an insight about this topic, these are the contents of this video. Number one, we will going to discuss what prototype is and its purpose, the software and application prototyping or prototype. And then after that, we're going to discuss benefits, advantages, types, and processes of prototyping. So without further ado, start na tayo with the prototype. So prototype is a sample of a model. So basically, some of the techniques na ginagawa ng ibang gumagawa ng product or nagpe-present ng bagong project is gumagamit sila ng prototype. So basically, prototyping or is a sample of a model of, number one, it can be designed, as I said, yung product, for example, a cell phone, a laptop, computer, gadget, or any devices. Kapag meron silang bagong ipipinch na project, so they will going to create a prototype, a sample model of it. And electronics, application development, and of course, software programming. Prototyping is a draft version of a product. Kumbaga, the purpose of this prototyping is to have an experimental model to test or validate ideas, design, assumptions, and other aspects. Kasi mahirap naman na whenever that you came up into another or into a new design, basta parang magkukwentuhan na lang kayo sa hangin na ganito magiging itsura niyan, ganyan magiging itsura niyan. So basically, kaya tayo gumagawa ng prototype is para ma-experiment natin ito. Para ma-express natin yung product implementation nito logically or physically kung okay ba yung ganitong product, okay ba yung ganito kalaking product. For example, kung let's say katulad nito, camera yung example natin, yung physical device niya, kapag hinawakan ko ng ganito ba to, okay ba na sa gawin na ito yung button or something like that? Or okay ba yung ergonomics kapag ginagamit ko yung device na to, yung user experience, diba? So, yun yung parang pinaka tinetest natin, ina-express natin yung product implementation logically or physically. Prototyping typically simulates only few aspects and po pwedeng magkaroon ng different or completely different from the different ideas from the final product. So in summary, we can say that prototyping is a model and the purpose of this model is to test the concept, ideas, or processes para ma-evaluate nating mabuti yung ginagawa nating product or yung ipine-present natin na bagong product. Or it can be dine-develop din in some other ways. Now, let's talk about the software application or software prototype and application prototype. Basically, yung mga sinabi ko na yung kanina about prototype is in general. And we never say that prototyping is just for software and application development lang. Software and application prototype is an executable model of the proposed software system or application. Kung kanina may pinakita tayong example, for example, whenever nagagawa ka ng bagong product ng camera, for example, gagawa ka ng, let's say, cardboard out of it na sample product mo para matest yung, sabi nga, ergonomics or yung user experience kapag hawak-hawak yung camera. But in this software and application prototype, you will going to create a prototype na of course software system or application. And again, like those other prototype, you will going to create an incomplete version of the prototype program that is being developed. And actually, pinag-usapan na din naman natin ang prototype. So, prototype is, or in the degree of completeness and yung technique kung paano ba ginagawa yung prototype is na-develop noong 1970s. So, again, may mga benefits tayo pagdating sa prototyping. Number one dyan is yung you can get an early valuable feedback in your client, which is importante lalong-lalo na kapag bago yung product na ginagawa mo and walang idea yung client mo dun sa may gusto niya. You will going to create a prototype out of your idea para maipakita mo sa kanya, magkaroon siya ng logical or physical thinking about dun sa may ano ba yung magiging kompletong or magiging final output ng kanyang product. Number 2 is the client and the contractor could compare if the software made matches the software specification. For example, merong i-define si client na gusto niyang maging specification ng software na ginagawa mo. When you create a prototype out of that, pwedeng magkaroon ng comparison kung ano ba yung, 'di ba, expectation versus reality. And lastly, it also allows the software or application engineer to have some insight into the accuracy of the initial project estimates. So whether na aabot ba tayo sa deadline, ano ba yung milestones na ipopropose natin dun sa may ginagawa nating project. Kung it can be successfully met ba kapag gagawin natin yung pinoproject natin na project dun sa ating client. Now, for the advantages of prototyping naman is number 1, you can collect feedback from users or stakeholders about the functionality. Kasi 'di ba kapag meron silang nakikita or nahahawakan or na-experience with regards sa may prototyping, pwede silang magkaroon ng idea or mas lalong lalawak yung kaalaman nila dun sa may kung ano ba yung gusto mong gawin. Kasi for example, kapag nagkukwentuhan lang kayo na gusto ko ganitong mangyayari dun sa may application. Kapag kinilik ko yung okay, maglalabas yung order, something like that. So, pagka meron kang pinapakitang sample, kung ano-ano yung sunod-sunod na po pwedeng mangyari or kahit na summary nung gagawin ng application mo, and then nakikita niya yung prototype na ginawa mo. Based on that po pwedeng magkaroon ng thinking yung client mo na, oops, pwede palang dagdagan natin ng ganito. Hindi lang pala dapat na kapag i-click mo yung okay, lalabas yung order niya. So, dapat meron pang confirmation, meron pang lalabas ng ganito. Kumbaga, mas lalawak yung, or mas, hindi naman natin pinapahirap yung project na ginagawa mo. What we are doing is to have a clear insight kung ano ba yung requirements na kailangan talaga ni client. So, the next one is it reveals area of improvement. So, di ba katulad nga na nasabi ko kanina, o dahil may na-experience or may nakikita si user, pwede niyang malaman or pwede niyang isuggest kung ano ba yung kulang dun sa may ipine-present mo. Next one is improve team efficiency and collaboration. So, bakit? Kasi dahil meron na kayong design, so pwede niyong paghati-hatian kung sino-sino yung, for example, gumagawa ka ng application or ng website. So, let's say, nakapag-develop ka ng landing page, merong order page, merong checkout na page. Pwedeng sabihin natin na, ikaw ang gagawa dito sa may landing page, ako gagawa dito sa may order, ikaw naman yung gagawa dito sa checkout. So, kumbaga, merong collaboration na mangyayari since naiplano nyo na yung product ninyo and then meron na kayong design. And hindi na kayo mahihirapan kung ano ba yung mga buttons or interfaces na dapat na ilagay dito sa landing page since kumbaga kung okay naman dun sa may client mo, 'di ba? Mas efficient yung paggawa ninyo. Kumbaga parang in the long run nagkakaroon kayo ng mas magandang productivity when it comes into your team. So the next one is it allows user to interact with the working model of their product. Diba? So sabi ko nga din, hindi na lang sa ikinukwento or binivisualize ni client or ikaw mismo kung ano ba yung gusto mong gawin. Diba? So meron kang parang proof talaga and then meron kang design na pwedeng mag-interact si user. Or it can be, pwede rin na makita niya visualize or visualization. So basically kasi mamaya we're going to talk about the types of prototyping. So but before that, tapusin muna natin tong advantage of prototyping. So next one is it converts abstract idea into tangible. Kapag sinabi natin tangible, yun nga, nahawakan na product or physical product in a cost-effective way, 'di ba? So, kumbaga na-experience niya ng katulad nung kanina, 'di ba? So, out of cardboard, merong camera tayong nagawa. With that, kung nalalakihan siya dun sa may camera na yon, so pwedeng paliitan, diba? Nang hindi ka gumagastos ng malaki or gumagamit ka ng actual materials para makagawa ka ng product na i-present mo, diba? In a cost-effective way. So nalaman mo yung ergonomics, hindi maganda, pangit yung nagiging user experience ni user with regards to your prototyping. So sabi ko it reveals areas for improvement kapag meron kang ginagawang prototype. And lastly, so we have identify if your product idea is weak. It can be costly bago nyo simulan yung project nyo talaga. Diba? So, ito yung mga advantages ng pagpo-prototype. Diba? Madaming advantages ang pagpo-prototype. Though, additional ito sa pagde-develop ng isang software. But, if we will going to think of a better picture nung ginagawa natin or the whole picture ng ginagawa nating software or product or application, mas na-identify natin ang totoong requirements na kailangan ng ating client. So now, as I said, we have different types of prototyping. So actually, nahahati yan sa dalawang types. Number one is the low fidelity prototyping and the high fidelity prototyping. Kapag sinabi nating low fidelity prototyping, you do not allow the user to interact or kumbaga parang paper-based yung ating low fidelity. Pero hindi naman siya actually paper-based since meron na nga tayong mga digital or mga software na ginagamit nowadays. And then on the other hand, we have the high fidelity which you allow the user to interact. Kumbaga parang nagagalaw niya, nagagamit niya yung prototype na ginawa mo. So basically, nahati din ang low fidelity or merong mga klase ng low fidelity prototype. Number one is the wireframe. We have storyboard, diagrams, and animation. So kapag sinabi natin na wireframe, wireframes are used to represent the basic structure of a website, web page, or application. It serves as a blueprint highlighting the layout of key elements on a page and its functionality. Kumbaga, yung pinaka-basic structure lang yung binubuo natin pagdating dito sa wireframe. The next one is the storyboards. Storyboards are another low-fidelity prototyping that helps visualize the user's experience using your product on how the user would interact with your product. Kumbaga parang ikinukwento mo dito or nagkakaroon ka ng step-by-step procedure kung paano mo i-interact yung system in a scenario base. Next one is diagrams. Multiple diagrams that can be help you to visualize different aspect of our product, which it can turn you to help to optimize your prototype such as mind maps, customer journey maps, and yung kilala nating diagram which is the flowchart. And the last one is the animation. It can be used to visualize how your products works. So, for example, if it is a mobile application, you can animate on how the user would navigate dun sa may screen, one step at a time. This will help the stakeholders or users to get an idea about the functionality of a product. Kung minsan, gumagamit sila ng 3D na model para magkaroon ng animation. Kung minsan naman 2D motion graphics yung ginagawa nila. Para nakikita, parang walkthrough dun sa may ginagawa nating application, software, or whatnot. So, that is the low fidelity prototype, the wireframe, storyboard, diagrams, and animation. On the other hand, we have the high fidelity prototype, wherein, sabi ko nga, it allows you to or you allowing the user or your client to interact with your prototype. We have interactive UI mockup or user experience or user interface mockup, physical model, and Wizard of Oz prototyping. So, interactive UI mockups is more fleshed out version. Kumbaga parang mas advanced version ng wireframe. Kumbaga parang ganun lang din siya, blockings lang din, usually blockings, but meron na siyang mga color schemes, typography, 'di ba? Hindi na lang siya talaga yung box na nakita natin kanina, meron na siyang label or other visual elements na magre-represent dun sa may final product. And syempre on this one, since it is under high fidelity prototype, mas kumbaga natatouch niya na or nai-scroll na niya yung mga buttons or yung mga pages rather nung pinapakita mong prototype doon sa client mo. The next one is the physical models. If the product is a physical one, let's say application, for example, you can use different materials to create models that represents the final look. So yun nga yung kanina, yung pinakita natin yung camera, for example, yung ganon. And then in software naman is you can use like this example, for example, cupboards, rubber, clay, etc. And lastly, we have the Wizard of Oz prototyping. Wizard of Oz prototyping. This is a type of prototype with fake functions. So yung nakikita nyo na idinedemo dyan, so basically parang nagkakaroon lang ng demonstration. Kumbaga scripted yung nakikita nyo na yan na video. Sinasabi nila na kapag for example, hinover mo yung kamay mo, lalabas yung Netflix, di ba? So pero kumbaga parang directed or scripted yung nangyayari dun sa may video wherein the user interacts with the product or you are showing that you are interacting with the product, and then the system will responses based dun sa may ginagawa mo. Pero actually, merong tao na gumagawa dun. For example, sinabi natin na kapag ka ka dyan, tinaas mo yung kamay mo and then binaba mo, bababa yung volume. Pero in a real world, dun sa may back of the camera, since it is a fake function, merong nagre-remote dun sa may actual TV and then hinihinaan talaga yung volume. Kumbaga, the purpose of this kind of prototyping, the Wizard of Oz prototyping, is allows you to study the interaction of the user at lesser cost. Kumbaga, parang nagkakaroon kayo ng skit dun sa may or presentation kung ano ba yung mangyayari dun sa may product na ipropose ninyo. So again, yan yung mga high fidelity prototype natin, the interactive UI or user interface mock-up, physical model, and the Wizard of Oz prototyping. And now for the last part, we have the process of prototyping. Number one is you will going to identify obstacles. Iisipin mo kung ano ba yung mga problems. Kapag ganito yung naging itsura ng design ko, nandito yung button, ganito kalaki yung picture, ganito kalaki yung text, ganito yung kulay ng text. So, you will going to identify obstacles. Then, you will going to select features. Itong button na ito, kumbaga parang naka-float dun sa may any applications na ginagawa natin. Kung gumagawa ka ng mobile application, yung parang sa Messenger, diba? So, for example, pwede mo siyang tanggalin or ilitaw yung chat heads, di ba? So, for example, ganun, you will going to select features, and then the third one is you will going to sketch your design. Kung ano ba yung magiging itsura nito. Siyempre, since na-identify mo yung mga obstacles mo, di ba? So, mas i-improve mo yung ginawa mong design based on your sketch, and then, kumbaga, in comparison with the identified obstacles na nakita mo. And then the fourth one is you're going to share your design. You will going to share your design to have an improvement para makita. Siyempre hindi naman kumbaga in developing a software, hindi ka naman gagawa lang ng prototype for nothing. So you need to share your design para magkaroon ng evaluation, makita yung kulang, ma-improve yung mga kulang, maitama yung mali dun sa may gagawin mong application. Okay, and then the last one is you will going to continue then to develop your software or application. So that's pretty much it about the prototyping. And maraming salamat sa inyong panonood. Hope you learned something new and keep safe everyone.